Rosie, this dish will take less than 10 minutes. In fact, it'll take 9 minutes to cook because the pasta says 9 minutes. So that will leave me 1 minute up my sleeve to be able to put it all together.
Well, it might take 10 minutes, but it's not under $10.
Definitely
I'm
not.
telling you that.
Definitely not under $10, but it will be nutritious and it will be delicious and one of my favourite things to cook. And it starts with getting the pasta on. Time starts now. On it goes. Water is boiling rapidly. That's what we like. And I need to put some salt in there. It's sort of like a race, isn't it? I'm going to throw the salt in. That's my speedy way of doing it.
I'm frozen with fear.
You like that?
Yeah.
And I put the whole heap of salt in there because salt loves pasta and pasta loves salt. And I just squeeze it in like that. And that sort of, you know, spreads it out so it actually goes in the bottom. You don't want the pasta to stick. So the first minute or so, you've got to stir it around like this. But, you know, I've got plenty of water in there. So that should soften the pasta up beautifully so it won't stick at all. Now, over there, I've got some basil, I've got some parsley, some flat leaf parsley, and I've got some chives as well. I want you to pick the basil leaves, chop the parsley, and finely slice the chives. And there's also some tomatoes there, if you can cut them into halves or quarters.
You got it.
And I'll get the pan going. Now, I put the pan on now, and they've got some shallots here. You could use onions if you want, but shallots are just as good. And I'm just slicing them all the way through. They will soften up fairly quickly, well, in under 10 minutes anyway, and they will taste delicious. Now, the dish I'm making is a spaghetti marinara, one of my favourite things in the entire world. And if you have a look in front of me, I have some amazing seafood.
What do you got?
I've got some prawns and some scallops and some Hiramasa kingfish, which is from South Australia.
Yeah.
And I've also got some salmon, which comes from Tasmania. In it goes. Now, I've got the shallots and garlic in the pan, and at this stage, I pour some extra virgin olive oil. And the reason I'm using this pan here is because it's got great non-sticking capabilities, which means my fish won't stick to the pan, which is really, really important. Now, normally with a pan like this, you would heat it up, and it's got a little thermo signal which tells you when it's hot. But this stage here, I'm going to actually heat it up nice and gently with the oil and the shallots. I want it to happen very slowly, so the shallots and the garlic cook nice and slowly. I've still got around 8 minutes up my sleeve. Now, the prawns are delicious, the scallops are fantastic, the kingfish is gorgeous, and the salmon as well. Now, you can see the kingfish has still got its skin on it. So here's my little trick with taking the skin off. I just go down the middle there, turn the knife, and I run along the bottom there and remove the skin and most of the bloodline. I'll pop that back over there. I'm only using a little bit of fish. And that's the great thing about cooking a spaghetti marinara. You take some expensive ingredients and you put them with pasta and it spreads them out nice and evenly. Right. So it fills your belly without costing that much. So it is quite an economical dish.
Nice.
It won't be $10 though.
It most definitely won't be $10.
El cheapo taco night for you, isn't it? But I tell you what, cheap food, when you make something really nice and it doesn't cost you much, I think that's almost a better way of doing it.
It's realistic, isn't it?
It is. And it's probably easy to get expensive stuff and make it taste delicious. But if you can make really tasty food with not spending a lot of money, that's what it's all about. Now, I've got my seafood cut. I've got my prawns and scallops here. I'm just waiting for my shallots and my garlic to cook down nicely. The herbs are nearly ready. This won't take long at all. Rosie, the pasta's got just a couple of minutes to go. If you cut that butter for me, you can see the shallots and the garlic are just starting to go nice and golden. They're frying up beautifully.
Where do you want this?
Straight into the pan. Now, I'm going to add the seafood to the pan, and with a little bit of butter that helps to melt and become part of the sauce, we want to slow the pan down a little bit and give it some flavour, and nothing is better than some butter in the pan to do that. In goes the salmon, and this won't take very long to cook. Some prawns go in here as well, you know, 5 or 6 prawns. We'll chuck the whole lot in, I love them. And some beautiful scallops. They'll go in here as well.
Wow.
What a great looking dish. It's looking fantastic
it really
already.
Is.
I'll pass it over to you, Rosie. And while you're over there, I'm going to grab some of these tomatoes that you've chopped up and throw them into the pan. I want them to sort of blister a little bit and cook a little bit and soften up. And you can see as I toss that around, it's looking fantastic.
Wow, yeah.
Now, with a spoon, I'll just push the butter down to the bottom there to make sure it melts all the way through. Not long to go. Some pepper in there as well. You can see it's starting to come together. And I'll show you, Rosie, see how the prawns are just starting to go a little bit white and the kingfish is going white? A minute or two and we'll be able to put it together. This will be delicious. Rosie, 8 minutes down, so it's time to add a little bit of nolly prat, which is a vermouth, about a tablespoon of that, and of course some white wine, about a tablespoon of that to make it even more luscious, flavoursome,
I need to drink some, this is intense.
Delicious. Go for it. Well, welcome to try that. And the herbs go in. This is the stage I like to add the herbs when just at the end, and I like to keep them nice and fresh. Now the pasta, I'll just pull it out like that and have a little taste of it. Cooked to perfection. Slightly al dente. That's the way it should be.
How we like it.
And I just take it straight out of the pot like that, drain off some of the water, and pop the pasta into the pan here. And you can see a good pan like this, plenty of volume, it will hold all of that pasta and all of that seafood. Now I'll add some salt because we need plenty of salt on there, make it tasty, and some pepper as well. You liking this one?
Hey, yeah, I am.
I get really excited when I cook this
I
dish.
know, I'm just watching. Like, it's like a,
It's,
I don't know what, it's like a reality show.
oh, no, it's unreal for me. I just toss it around like that. This is one of the first things I learned to cook in a kitchen, and I still cook it today. It is delicious. It's all about having great Australian seafood and Italian pasta. There you go.
Got it.
Now, I'll just turn that around like this, and this is my little trick. I pull it out like that, put the pasta down on the bottom, like that, and then, of course, all of the seafood goes on top with the lovely fresh herbs. And I'm using a flat plate. Normally I would use a bowl, but a flat plate like this spreads it all out. It looks like a lovely big portion, and you can pop all of that seafood on top. Lovely prawn on the outside there. Look at the size of those prawns. A little bit left in the pan there, and I'll just put some of the juice on there, the flavour, the sauce, the delicious stuff that's in the pan. Turn that off.
A gourmet dinner in under 10 minutes.
Just made it, didn't I?
You've outdone yourself.
I reckon 9 minutes and 45 seconds. But
It smells fantastic.
But who's counting, Rosie? It does smell fantastic. I'm going straight for the prawn because I love prawns, and these are delicious prawns. That is great. A
Wow.
little bit of a blow to cool it down. Deep breath.
You've got all that lovely omega-3 in there as well, so you're going to come up with even better recipes now that brain has been nourished.
By the time I've eaten this, I'll need a good sleep. This is delicious. The garlic, the wine, the seafood, the pasta there to fill me up. Blow on that like that.
You're a happy guy, aren't you? It doesn't take much to make him happy.
I'm really happy.